At 4:30 this afternoon, First City Bank employees knew something was wrong. Unfamiliar faces were behind the teller windows. Men and women with big briefcases had commandeered the bank's executive suite. Finally, at 5:10, the news came that many had suspected all along. An FDIC employee posted notice that the comptroller of the currency had ordered First City Bank to close. First City reportedly had close to 5,600 depositors, with total deposits exceeding $84 million. The bank allegedly also had loan losses in excess of $7 million.
The results of an examination of the bank indicated that the bank was in an insolvent condition.
Unlike some of Oklahoma's past bank closings, there will be no sad stories of customers losing their life savings. The FDIC announced just 1 hour after the bank closed that new management would be in place on Monday morning and that all depositors would be protected.
The FDIC Board of Directors has just approved a transaction in Washington under which the deposits of the failed bank will be assumed by a newly chartered bank to be called City Bank and Trust. City Bank and Trust has been formed by UBT Bancorp, which is headquartered in Bartlesville.
FDIC spokesman Alan Whitney says the present management is not responsible for the bank's troubles. He pointed the finger at the last owners.
The closing itself is generally attributable to an accumulation of problems over a period of years, generally falling into the category of weak or inept management, resulting in loan losses that finally resulted in the bank's insolvent condition.
Up until 2 months ago, Jerry McLean was president, chairman, and majority stockholder at First City. McLean officially left the bank about a month and a half ago. But officials in the local banking community tell News 4 that McLean had not played an active role in First City for close to 6 months. When First City officers were saying that McLean was still in charge, News 4 attempted to reach him at his home in Oak Tree. Officials there indicated the bank president hadn't been home in a long time.
When was the last time you saw him?
Kurt, I don't know. It's been quite a while back. You know, I don't keep track of them that close or anything.
But you'd say it's been over a month.
As far as I know.
For the president of the newly chartered bank, the job of building a strong lending institution will be a challenge.
We're going to open up 9 o'clock and meet our depositors and our customers and grow a bank.
We not only need a pay raise, we deserve a pay raise.
They're angry and they're frustrated. The state's 36,000 employees have been asking for a raise for more than 3 years. Each time, they were ignored. A few months ago, the group converged on the state capitol once again to let legislators know they've waited out the tide, and the time is now.
GCCA will meet.
Legislators are looking at ways they can grant employees a cost of living increase. Money for the pay hike will come from that multi-million-dollar tax increase that was approved last week. The raises are a must. That's if lawmakers are to keep their promises.
I can absolutely promise that they will get at least an 8% pay increase, and I would believe that what Representative Lewis and I came up with is a good plan for employees, and that is that they would not only get at least an 8% pay increase, but also the short-term, long-term disability plan as well as the increase in their longevity pay.
As it stands now, state employees making less than $30,000 a year will get an 8% pay increase. Those making over $30,000 will receive a 6% raise. The total cost to the state, approximately $54 million. Tomorrow, state employees will find out if they'll get their long overdue cost of living increase. The pay raise issue comes up for a vote here in the House and the Senate chambers. If approved, state workers could start making more money effective the 1st of July. At the state capitol, Stephanie Frederick, News 4.
The money raised by increasing the sewage rates will pay for the operation of treatment plants. City officials claim these new modern facilities are very expensive to operate. EPA regulations force the city to improve its sewage treatment system, and now officials say it's time to pay for those improvements.
Once upon a time, the city could just dump raw sewage into the river, and that was a long time ago. But once upon a time, that was the way that sewage was treated. It was dumped into the largest water course available, and naturally was purified at some point along that water course.
But in city council debate, one member argued it's unfair to make all residents pay the extra $2 a month for sewer service. That councilman says the city's growth caused the need for new plants, and so only new residents should pay for the plant operation.
Those who, by their building new houses and moving here, created the demand for an additional plant should pay for it, just like they pay for the bricks and the mortar and the carpet that goes into those new houses.
The majority of the council disagreed with that philosophy. It passed the increase, saying sewer rates will only get higher for everyone in the years ahead. Bob Donaldson, News 4, City Hall.
The fireworks laws did not require that we inspect the manufacturing facility. Now, whether or not they're covered by OSHA or someone else, I don't know, but we are not required to inspect the manufacturing facilities.
So essentially you wouldn't have?
Right.
The grim report from the state medical examiner this morning included 2 explosion victims under the age of 18.
I think there's a 13-year-old boy and a 16-year-old boy. Now, again, that information is basically based on date of birth type information that we were given.
It was later learned that victim Charles Osmond was actually 14 years old and victim Scott Hartley was 17. But as far as labor laws are concerned, if either was actually employed at the plant, say officials, it was against the law. The state says it's illegal to employ anyone under 16 at a potentially hazardous facility such as Aerobics. Federal law prohibits employment there by anyone under 18. And state labor officials say they may file charges if the 14-year-old was indeed employed at the plant.
If that was a person working as an employee on there, we would continue our investigation and probably follow through with what the statute allows us to do. And that, like I said, is a criminal penalty. It's a misdemeanor, carries a very small fine, very small jail term.
And the Labor Department becomes another agency that could have inspected the plant but didn't. They used to check plants like Aerobics for underage workers, but don't anymore.
At one time we had compliance officers working throughout Oklahoma making periodic routine inspections in these types of establishments. 3.5 years ago, due to budget cuts, our employment standards field personnel were terminated and we have none, 0.
Gears says labor officials have been pushing for tougher laws and stiffer penalties for a long time, but those requests fell on deaf ears. Officials feel this tragedy could change that. Jeff Fowler, News 4.
Senate bills and joint resolutions on first reading.
Past legislative session has been my as a whole. I have discovered if I approach Speaker Barker with my feelings that I wanted to change parties and that the philosophical differences between the two parties that were leading me more toward the Democratic Party. So I approached them, they did not approach me.
The B-1B is America's first new nuclear bomber in 30 years. The plane flies faster and carries more nuclear weapons than the aging B-52 bombers it replaces. The Air Force is planning to use the B-1B well into the next century. Tinker Air Force Base figures prominently in those plans. The Air Logistics Center is currently testing the bomber's new high-powered engines. The military expects the new technology engines to last much longer than their predecessors. However, when the turbofans do need major work, they'll be repaired by Tinker technicians.
Managing of a weapon system is much like managing any organization in civilian industry. You make sure that all the pieces that are needed to make sure the operation will go well are on hand, that the instructions, the paperwork that's needed, it's all the management functions. We have a 4,000 PSI hydraulic system on this aircraft.
The base will also stockpile more than $1 billion worth of spare bomber parts. Tinker officials intend to deliver the first of those spare B-1 parts tomorrow. Colonel Friedoff plans to hand carry small parts to tomorrow's bomber dedication in Abilene. Scott Wallace, News 4 at Tinker Air Force Base.
You want to try some of these poppets? These are real safe, and you just throw them down. And
you can see a certain light in the eyes of an 8.5-year-old at the fireworks stand at this time of year. There's so much to choose from, makes it a tough decision. It's a decision that should also be made with caution and not without an adult. These are Class C explosives, deemed safe enough to sell, although not inside Oklahoma City limits. The warnings are there, but unfortunately too often they aren't read or carelessness slips in.
They're usually burns. They can give you soft tissue injuries from just the explosive effect that's close to the skin, both that and the burns. And that's why, of course, the eyes would be so sensitive too.
The Oklahoma City Fire Department is in charge of enforcing the city's code, which forbids fireworks unless a permit has been issued. But the fire department also knows that people are going to light them off, regardless of that law.
If our citizens are going to bring fireworks into the 4th of July celebration, we'd recommend that they use a vacant lot or an area of closely mowed grass. Be extremely careful, watch our little ones. Last year we had children as young as 2 years old injured with fireworks.
It's estimated there will be more than 14,000 fireworks injuries this 4th of July. The American Academy of Ophthalmology says at least 1,000 of them will result in permanent vision loss. A 1983 study indicates that the most frequently injured person is a 10-year-old boy setting off bottle rockets. Terry Cook, News 4.
Go home and pray. That's what we need more than anything else right now. It's the only thing I know of that will help.
but it's going to be hard for me to go to work. And working nights, especially thinking about this.
If they'd executed Roger Dale Stafford, this wouldn't have happened.
I mean, I think you're here and you've seen it close up, and I have to.
All these people are leaving.
Well, he's president of OU and all that. You guys can check that out.
But when you ask for $1/3 billion on the ratepayers of the state of Oklahoma, all of which they're asking for here in the summer of 1985, we do think it's too much. But for me to say it's too much is not enough. We have to prove to the Corporation Commission that this is too much, that the utility companies are asking for more than they really need. The only way to prove that is for us to go into the Corporation Commission hearings with expert witnesses, with our own engineers, with our own CPAs, and challenge the utility companies to cut out the fat and leave the muscle.
It's a scene right out of the history books, and these folks are living it. It might be 1985, and everyone here might travel the interstate to work every morning. But for the weekend, and just one out of the year, the Ben Clark Rifle Club members leave all that behind and retreat to some open space to remember the past.
Clifton, how long have you been doing this?
7 years.
Why?
The history, it's a lot of fun to think that we're continuing something that was done 200 years ago. And when we started in the flintlocks, that moved us back a little further. And it's just the aura of doing something that was done that long ago.
It's easy to get wrapped up in the history. It's all around you out here.
And just don't jerk, just squeeze.
Great.
We'll try. I want to do it again.
Meanwhile, on the other side of camp, the situation was a little more ominous as the dark cats rode into town. But it didn't interrupt trading, reminiscent of the mid-19th century.
How much are the screwdrivers?
They're $5.
We have a good time, and we have fun, and it's good education for the kids, and it lets them get back to nature in the way that things are supposed to be. And they learn how to live with the land, not against it. So they don't try to pave everything.
After spending a day out here, and the public is invited, it's hard to believe this is 1985. It takes all those lessons learned and forgotten from books on the past and adds a sense of touch and smell. Why? Purely for the sake of history. Terry Cook News 4, near El Reno.
Fear of the unknown caused Oklahoma City firefighters to evacuate 3 blocks of the Lakeside subdivision this afternoon after 2 sanitation workers became violently ill. 22-year-olds Tim Purdy and Chuck Kindheart, both of Oklahoma City, were picking up trash in this neighborhood when toxic gases formed. While both men were being treated at a local hospital, firemen sifted through garbage trying to determine what made the 2 men sick. The truck was later moved when the substance could not be identified quickly. Tonight, the contents lie at the city dump.
We have been through the material looking for something that possibly could have caused this incident with the 2 individuals who were acutely ill. We found nothing in the refuse that to give us any indication of what that might be.
State health officials will be back at the dump site in the morning to again try and determine what made the workers ill. Laidlaw Waste Systems branch manager says tonight officials may never know what caused the toxic fumes to form. Joe Forrestel says these types of accidents come with the territory. Ann Nyberg, News 4.
Means the other 6 systems next year are going to be asking for the same automation to provide them a decent retirement system. I vetoed that bill because I think that in the public employment retirement bill we have given extra benefits to elected officials that bring them out of the uniformity that we've been trying to reach.
I think that the legislative leadership and the governor's office will get together and hopefully come to a quick resolution of the differences between them and get the state employees part of it, the Oklahoma Public Employees Retirement System portion of it, enacted into law.
Usually our worst time comes end of July, 1st of August. So those are traditionally our high peak water usage periods.
Yet, I'm sure. We're just hoping this year that we won't have that problem.
This amendment was offered today in the committee, and it was accepted. And I think really it's just a technical amendment. I don't think it'll make that much difference one way or the other. It's just a matter of convenience.
We've been through a lot of negotiations throughout the night and this morning trying to find an assuming bank in here, but unfortunately it did not work out. Therefore, we will work around the clock 24 hours throughout the weekend to get the money available to the depositors.
I guess I don't have to do what everyone else does. Everybody's waiting in line Monday and trying to get their money back and start over someplace else.
You can bet these Oklahomans will be tuned in tomorrow afternoon when David Crosby, Stephen Stills, and Graham Nash go worldwide from Philadelphia. It's called Live Aid, an effort staged from Philly and London to benefit starving children. Tonight's Oklahoma City stop is part of a whirlwind two-day pace to get the group to Live Aid. It started this morning in Salt Lake City. They've been to Denver, and after tonight's concert here, they'll jet away again. But the pace is okay because the cause, they say, is a good one.
If my going and going to all this trouble, if that'll save one child's life, then it's worth it.
Live Aid is important to Crosby, Stills, and Nash for more than one reason. It could reunite them with a former member for a day.
None of us have talked to Neil, he's not talked to us, and it wouldn't surprise me if we did a couple of songs together.
So it may be Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young tomorrow at Live Aid. Tonight, though, Oklahoma City fans were completely satisfied with 3 out of 4. Dan Slocum, News 4.
Political ploy by extreme groups
It gets close. That's politics in Oklahoma. But the working people are right. The right is on our side. The issue is false. It's not true what the right-to-work people from out of state say. The senators were given those facts, and you see what happened.
If colon cancer can be detected before symptoms developed, the cure rate improves to about 90 to 95%. And therefore, it's very important that we try to detect as many of these as possible.
This session, a number of Republicans that when I got up to speak would turn their head away from me, and responsive and understanding of some of the true problems. Got up to spoke, a certain group would get out. Mr. Frank Davis, under his leadership, has allowed the ultra-conservative element to dominate in the House of Representatives to the degree of silencing and nullifying the voice of the moderate Republicans, of which I classify myself originally as one.